Alright, so thinking again about our equation of y equals mx plus b, just writing that again for more practice. Let's look at this next graph. So we have a slope, y-intercept, and the equation we're looking for. So let's first find that slope. So I told you that when we do the slope, we're doing change of y over change of x, or that rise over run. This one looks a little bit different. So again, I'm going to find those 2 points where they meet exactly at the x and y. And now I'm going to go try to find those points. But instead of going up and then over, I have to go down and then over. And that's because my slope is going to be negative. So let's think about that. So instead of rising, we're going to be going down. I don't know. Think of a word opposite of rise. So we're going down 1, 2, 3. Descend there. So we're going down 3, and then we're going over, or still doing that run. 1, 2. So we're going down 3, but we're still going over positive 2. So even though we're going over a positive 2, our slope is still going to be negative 3, positive 2. Okay, so think about that. When our line is going from quadrant 2 down to quadrant 4, our slope is going to be negative. So I'm going to write that off to the side. So quadrant 2 to quadrant 4, our slope is negative. Always. So if our line is going down, our slope is always going to be negative. I would write a star by that. So then thinking about our y-intercept then, we're trying to find that point where the line hits exactly on the y-coordinate, which is right there. So that's that's positive 3. So then our equation is going to be y equals negative 3 halves x, right? Because the slope is our m, and that y-intercept is our b, minus 3. So this is our equation. Now, with the next one, I noticed that there's a couple different points. So this one is talking about earnings and number of newspapers. So first I'm going to think about my slope. So I'm going to check out the rise over run. See if you can figure out the slope. Alright, so the first time I did this problem, I actually did it wrong. And that was because I didn't pay attention to the scale on the bottom. The scale on the bottom does not go, well, it does go by ones, but then the scale on the y-axis does not go up by 1 increments. I thought this was 1. No, this is 1/2. So if we go up 2 spaces, that's not 2. It's just 1, right? 1/2, 1. And then we go over 2. 1, 2. Then we do it again. 1/2, 1. Then we go over 1, 2. So our slope is going to be 1/2 because we're going up 1 whole unit, and then we are going over 2. So we are rising up 1, and then we are running 2. Up 1 over 2. Up 1 over 2. So then we have to think about that y-intercept. So since our y-intercept doesn't fall up here and just falls at the 0, our y-intercept is actually going to be 0. So thinking about the mx plus b, so that m is going to be our slope. So our equation is going to be y equals our slope of 1/2 x. And then because we don't have a y-intercept, that's all our equation is. So coming down here, I notice that there's no y-intercept jumping out at me. So first I'm going to try to find the slope. So I do see that we have a point here, and we have a point here. and then we have another nice point here. So I'm going to try to find the slope for that first. See if you can figure out the slope. Pay attention to those axes on the side. It looks like we're going by tens on the x-axis, and then tens up the y. Alright, so for this one, I calculated 3, and that's because I went up 10, 20, 30, and then I went over 10. So, and then I figured that out for this point too. 10, 20, 30, and then over 10. So, thinking about that, my rise was 30, my run was 10. Rise is 30, run is 10. And 30 divided by 10 is 3. Now, since we can't see the y-intercept, we're actually going to have to solve for it. So, think about our equation of y equals mx plus b. We're going to work backwards a little bit. So, first let's plug in what we know. We have 3 as our slope. So let's plug that in for our m. Y equals 3x plus b. Alright, so now we have an x and y coordinate. So now what we're actually going to do is we're going to plug in a point. So I'm going to pick any point on my graph. I'm going to pick 50, 20. So we have 50, 20. So 50 is my x and 20 is my y. So I'm going to plug that in for the x and y values. So I'm going to say 20 is equal to 3 times 50, again using that point, plus b. So now we're just going to solve for b. So take a minute and solve for b. Remember our steps, how we multiply or divide, and then we try to combine like terms. Alright, so b is equal to negative 130. So looking at our graph, and that was because 3 times 50 is 150, and then I had to get the b by itself. So I subtracted 150 to move it over, and then I got negative 130. So that being said, our y-intercept, remember the b we said is negative 130. If we're looking at our graph, it would be kind of hard to see, right? So that's why we can use those couple of steps to figure out our equation. So then that means our equation is going to be y equals, we're using our slope that we found of 3x, and then our y-intercept of negative 130. So minus 130.